You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Let's deal with a topic that we always deal with. That is, let's talk about some money. Being frozen out.
Facing an extinction level event.
We don't fight this fight right now. You're not going to have black-owned media. Today I participated in a black-owned media upfront presentation with Byron Allen and others that was designed to get black-owned media in front of a variety of ad agencies. In the last week, we have seen two major ad agencies make announcements when it comes to how they're going to spend money. Let's show you one of those, please. If y'all can go ahead and show that, that'd be great. One of the graphics. One of the particular companies announced that by 2023, they will spend at least 5% with black-owned media. Do y'all have that? Okay, I don't know why we don't have the graphics for it. Let me pull it myself, and let me explain, folks, why this is important. Essentially, what we have seen are companies that have spent just 1% on black-owned media. Did you hear what I said? 1% on black-owned media. We're talking about collectively upwards of $250 billion being spent every single year on advertising and marketing. And they love your money. They love you spending your money. But they don't necessarily love spending that money with folks who look like you. Kind of important, don't you think? So, IPG media brands, they represent billions of dollars of companies. They announced on Friday that they are going to, and go ahead and show it, invest at least 5% in black-owned media by 2023. Now, here's the issue that I have with that. Why can't you spend 5% right now? Right now, media companies are going through their upfronts. Right now. The companies are spending money right now. So when someone announces, we're going to spend 5% by 2023, it begs the question, how much are you spending right now? So how much are you spending in 2021? How much are you going to spend in 2022? When we met with General Motors, they said, we were spending 1%, we're going to spend 2% in 2021. In a later interview, Deborah Wall, Chief Marketing Officer of General Motors, announced that because of COVID, they were spending $3.7 billion a year. $3.7 billion. COVID, they reduced it to $2.7 billion. That means, folks, that if 1% of their budgets were going to black-owned media companies, let me rephrase that, black businesses, that means just $27 million out of $2.7 billion was going to black-owned media companies. Some of y'all watching may be asking, well, Roland, okay, but what's the big deal? When you're watching BET and ads pop up, that money is going to Viacom CBS, not black-owned. When you are looking at your black content on Complex, and Complex touts their black numbers, that money's not going to African Americans. When you're watching Bounce TV, Saints and Sinners and other shows, that money is going to Scripps. When you are listening to Black Information Network, and I got commentaries on there, I got no problem saying it, that money is going to iHeartRadio. When you are watching and supporting The Breakfast Club, that's iHeartRadio, not a black-owned media company. So these companies don't mind spending with black-targeted companies. The problem is when you're spending with black-owned companies. So they announced that it was going to be 5%. That story dropped on Friday. Well, yesterday, GroupM announced their plans. GroupM, y'all, is Mediacom. We're talking about one of the biggies. Now, remember, IPG, what y'all heard me? They announced they were going to do 5% by 2023. This is what GroupM announced. GroupM announced a 2% pledge to invest in black-owned media over the next year. They also were going to support black creators, producers, and studios with an accelerator program. Folks, how shall I say this? 2%. It's a start. But we ain't satisfied with 2%. That number is wholly insufficient. 2% is completely insufficient. Let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that GroupM is responsible for $20 billion of spending a year. That's just for the sake of our conversation right now. Let's just say 20 billion. Out of 20 billion at 2%, how much is that for black-owned media? Now, mind y'all, these companies, their market share for black people is 10, 11, 15, 20, 25%. 2%? I need y'all to understand that what you are seeing in this example I'm using is economic apartheid. This is how black people are frozen out of being able to create wealth. This is why our black-owned media companies are small. This is why we can't afford to have 15, 20, or 30 reporters around the country. See, I know some of y'all are saying right now to me, these folks, I'm going to use this example. I got a fool right here being some dumbass on YouTube, truth seeker. Roland needs those white corporate donations. I get it. Well, guess what? Those white companies are getting your dollars, truth seeker. I remember a few years ago in the National Association of Black Journalists, we voted not to accept money from liquor companies. And I get it. I remember black organizations said they were going to stop accepting money from tobacco companies. And I get it. And then I remember one year we had a big event at Disney World, Ben, Kelly, and Mustafa. And it was a big old event we had. And I swear, every 100 feet, it was a big bin of alcohol. And I was, mind you, I don't drink. I've never drank in my life. And so I remember we had our business meeting a couple of days later, and the question came back up, should we as an organization accept money from alcohol companies? And I also remember that when we pick our conventions, we often would pick hotels that had large lobbies for our members who love to hang around at the bar. And so we had a bunch of people who would stand up and they would speak high and mighty about how this is wrong and we shouldn't be taking this money. And the non-drinkers stood up. And I said, I'm just confused. I said, how in the hell all y'all drinking? How were y'all drinking at the party last night? How y'all drink? I said, we never, ever come up short on our food and beverage requirement at the hotels. I said, but now all of a sudden, we spend money on alcohol, but we don't want to take alcohol money as an organization. I said, that's about the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. And when I made the argument, folk in the room were like, shit, he got a point. He got a point. And then I was able to defeat the folk. And I remember Arthur Sulzberger, who was the CEO of the New York Times. We were at the closing banquet. He came up to me. Y'all gotta understand, I ain't never had a problem speaking truth to power to white folk or black people. And this is Arthur Sulzberger. This is the New York Times. He comes up to me and outraged that we did this. And without missing a beat, I said, well, why don't you increase your damn support then? If you don't want us taking liquor money, I said, why don't you cut a bigger damn check? Until then, don't you tell me how in the hell should do business in our black organization. I think that was the last conversation I had with Arthur Sulzberger. But I think he learned right then, don't just roll up on me saying crazy stuff. So the fools like Truth Seeker, and there are fools out there being like him, because they love, we don't need money from the white corporations. Well, Truth Seeker, tell me what's in your house that didn't come from a white corporation. Why in the hell should we, as black people, not participate in this economic system? Why do you think we're calling out Forrest Marsh Group, the groups that also are getting the governmental advertising contracts, when over a 5-year period, black-owned media got 51 million out of 5 billion? See, I love these people, Mustafa. I love these old fake-ass conscious fools, okay, who love running their mouths about what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing. Yet Fox is getting $1.5 billion profit every year. Not revenue, profit. CNN, owned by Warner Media, owned by AT&T, $1 billion profit. MSNBC, owned by NBC Universal, owned by Comcast, almost 800 million profit. And we got fools, y'all should be doing, damn that. Black-owned media should be getting money from General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Mercedes, Clorox, Procter & Gamble, every major corporation, because if black folks are buying the product, then they should be advertising. Microsoft, Apple, hell, I'm sitting right here. iPad, 2 iPhones, iWatch, and a MacBook, and a Mac Mini in there. And how much is Apple spending on advertising on Roland Martin Unfiltered? See, Kelly, the reason we are breaking this whole thing down, the reason we are checking these folk is because, see, Kelly, they have gotten over like a fat rat. They have been spending 0.2, 0.5, maybe 1% total. So now people need to understand why Ebony Magazine was in bankruptcy. Why that the only black building that was owned in downtown Chicago, the only black skyscraper, the only black multi-level building that was owned in downtown Chicago, the reason that building had to be sold in bankruptcy when Johnson Publishing Company filed for bankruptcy is because they were not getting their fair share. Being I was told by Todd Brown, a brother, we had him on the show, and he used to be over sales for Ebony. Ebony, massive circulation size, was getting $20,000 for a full-page ad, while Esquire, smaller than Ebony, was getting $200,000. So to all y'all black folks out there who like, well, I don't know why y'all sitting here begging a white man for money. So you telling me that Esquire should have been getting $200,000 while Ebony was getting $20,000 and Ebony was bigger than Esquire? And so this is why we're challenged. That's why I'm saying to Group M. And Kirk McDonald, I know Kirk. Kirk is the CEO of Group M. He's an African-American who's the CEO. And my message to Mediacom, to WPP, to Omnicom, to Group M, to every single advertising agency, no, we're not satisfied. And I'm not satisfied with announcements. Let me say it again. I'm not satisfied with press releases. What I'm satisfied with, Kelly, are checks. I'm satisfied with disbursements. I'm satisfied. I will give you props when I see y'all cut checks. And I'm not talking about small checks. I'm talking about 7-figure checks. Mustafa, I had to tell folks, see, everybody out there, see, all to the fools out here, to all the fools who don't understand business, and I'll forgive some of y'all because you ain't never had folk in your business, family with businesses. Well, guess what? My grandfather had a business. My grandmother had a business. My mama had a business. My Aunt Lurdy had a business. My Aunt Pam had a business. My Uncle Junior, Clarence Jr., had a business. My Uncle Larry, his brother, had a business. My Uncle Warren had a business. I think out of the 8 brothers and sisters that out of the 8 sons and daughters my maternal grandparents have, I think 7 of them had businesses and 1 didn't. So forgive me if I grew up with black entrepreneurs, so Roland ain't new to this. This is why black people are starving. Pre-COVID, 2.6 million black-owned businesses, Benjamin. 2.5 had 1 employee. 1. Doing an average revenue of $54,000. Now, again, I'm not sitting here trying to floss or flex, but I just told y'all an average revenue of $54,000 for the 2.6 million black-owned businesses in America. Do y'all understand that right now, from donations from our fan group, there's $47,000 sitting in Cash App? That means that in my Cash App right now, due to my fan base, I have almost the same amount of money as the average black business in America. So when 2.5 million black-owned businesses have 1 employee, we can't hire nobody. And if we can't hire Ben or give a contract to Kelly or fund Mustafa's environmental justice stuff, guess what happens? Then Mustafa, in order for him to do his work in environmental justice, he got to go ask somebody not black. Because there's no extra money to help him. If we want to provide Kelly with a consulting contract, well, hell, if you average at $54,000, you can't do that because you barely eating. If Benjamin has his podcast, if a black-owned business wants to take advertising out on his podcast, they can't because they're not getting the revenue. And so I need everybody who's watching to understand why we are putting this pressure on these ad agencies and the companies because they're not funding black people. Money that we actually are spending. And so there's a group called Forrest Marsh, the Forrest Marsh Group. And the reason I'm going to call them out, because they control a lot of government contracts. Not only that, Forrest Marsh Group also controls the COVID money. Well, we had a meeting a month ago, submitted a proposal. The next cycle is supposed to start on Monday. We ain't heard back. Sent emails, sent text messages, haven't heard back. I told y'all, $1 billion is spent every year by the federal government on advertising. $1 billion. Black people get 51 million total. Total. That means every black-owned company in America shares the 51 million out of the 1 billion. That's your taxpayer money. So I just wanted to show y'all. Just wanted to show y'all. And again, we're reaching out to Forrest Marsh. We're reaching out to them because we want to know what exactly is their black spin. Y'all, right here, go to my iPad. These are the agencies, Ben, Kelly, and Mustafa, these are the companies that Forrest Marsh does business with. FDA, taxpayer funded. IRS, taxpayer funded. Federal Voting Assistance Program, taxpayer funded. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, taxpayer funded. Army National Guard, taxpayer funded. United States Coast Guard, taxpayer funded. USDA, taxpayer funded. NHTSA, taxpayer funded. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, taxpayer funded. National Institute of Standards and Technology under the Department of Commerce, taxpayer funded. U.S. Department of Homeland Security, taxpayer funded. National Cancer Institute, taxpayer funded. Centers for Disease Control, taxpayer funded. The GSA, taxpayer funded. U.S. Air Force, taxpayer funded. U.S. International Trade Commission, taxpayer funded. Then you have the VA, taxpayer funded. The U.S. Postal Service, taxpayer. You have right here FEMA, taxpayer funded. Consumer Product Safety Commission, taxpayer funded. The Election Assistance Commission, taxpayer funded. Forest Service, Department of Agriculture, taxpayer funded. AmeriCorps, National. Then you have U.S. Army. Y'all, that's all taxpayer money. Don't you think it's fair for us to ask, hey, Forrest Marsh, how much of the taxpayer-funded money you're getting for advertising contracts, how much of that is going to black-owned media? Maybe by asking the question, we then begin to ask, well, what does the leadership of Forrest Marsh look like that's getting all of this taxpayer-funded money? I'm glad you asked. Go to my iPad. This, y'all, is the leadership of the agency that's receiving all of that taxpayer-funded money. Do you see anybody on this list that looks like one of us? No. Not one. This is the leadership. So, for everybody watching, I'm going to be sending a letter to Forrest Marsh Group asking them specifically to reveal how much of the federal dollars that they are getting that's going to black-owned media. Who are those outlets? How much is being allocated? I hope they provide the answers. If they don't, I'm then going to ask members of Congress, specifically the Congressional Black Caucus, to ask for the same information of the company. I believe that if an agency is receiving taxpayer-funded money, then we should know what's going to black-owned media. Mm-hmm. What we need now, Ben, we need black people to stop being scared. We need black people to stop being afraid to demand our fair share. And we need black people who watch our shows to back us up, because when we demand more of the ad dollars, that's how we're able to hire interns. That's how we're able to hire HBCU graduates. That's how we're able to hire and work with black vendors. That's how we're able to build black wealth, because we're getting our fair share, Ben.
Roland, I think some of them would rather see us have to spin straw into gold, right? And work some kind of magic to produce this content that is rooted in our Black experience. I mean, one of the biggest things that we see is with these lack of dollars is that we don't get our stories told through our voices. We get them told through voices that may be Black, but they are, at the end of the day, they have to answer to white folks. And I know you've experienced this, but one of my craziest experiences was being told by people who claimed to be, on our side of the equation, that some of the stories we were covering were too Black. Right, literally pulled into the office and said, we don't know if we want to do that racial justice story. We're doing it too much. And those are the type of things that we have to fight with when we're fighting against, when we don't have the money to do it our way and to do it with Black-owned businesses. And so they expect us to make miracles. But at the end of the day, there's so much money that is just, slushing around in the advertising industry, and it's not coming to Black folks.
This is business, Kelly, pure and simple.
No, I thought you were going to say something else. You're absolutely right. I don't consider any time Black people, Black businesses ask for money from white entities, I don't consider that begging at all. I don't consider that even a type of assimilation. We are demanding our due. It is something to see when you have our consumerism versus their investment in us not being balanced. You see our dollars as green, but you see our needs and our plight as limited and Black. How is it that our Black money is all of a sudden green for you, but our needs are still remaining to be Black and othered? It is something that we have seen time and time again. It's not going to necessarily change anytime soon, but stories like this, coverage like what you do on your show regularly, Roland, is something that we really need to just educate ourselves on, because if you look at how we buy, our consumerism takes up much more than the 5% that they're giving out. They take up much more than the 2% that they're giving out.
Yep.
If all we're asking for is the balance, that should not be an issue. And yet it is. So that's definitely something that needs to be rectified with all of these companies. And it starts with stories like this.
Yep.
And it starts with us making the demands that are necessary in order to rectify these wrongs.
Look, it ain't going to happen if we don't make the demands, Mustafa.
It's always about accountability. If we don't hold people accountable, we don't hold ourselves accountable for how we utilize our dollars, and when we don't push back against folks who continually devalue us, then they're going to continue to do it. We know that there is a disinvestment that continues to happen in African-American businesses and in our communities. So you gotta change that paradigm, and that's why you gotta call folks out. I'm so glad that you're gonna reach out to the CBC if things don't actually materialize in a proper direction, because there has to be real accountability. I know federal dollars. I sat over top of many of them, and I also know that when it comes to contracting and subcontracting opportunities, that African-American businesses and Latinx businesses receive a tiny percentage. So the federal government has some responsibility here, along with those who sit in this corporate space, to change this paradigm.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.